you begin to open up these areas inside yourself which provide kind of quantum leaps. And that's what I found different with Dunhuang compared to any of the other internal arts, is that it began to work on the consciousness. Because you're not trying to move, it's often the case that when we move, we think we're doing it right, but then the teacher comes around and corrects us a little bit, and we realize, oh, it was completely something else. With standing, there's much less of that because you have to confront yourself. And you can't kind of lie to yourself and tell yourself you're relaxed, when your body's shaking or your muscles are tight. So you have to learn to be honest with yourself and accept yourself right where you are. Uh, you might say the earth below, heaven above, and the human being, and what they call marriage of heaven and earth, some of the Chinese philosophy. But I found that because the teacher didn't come out here very often, he would teach me in an old way and show me like one thing.
Yes.
And then I would work on it for a year. And then he'd come back up and then show me something else. And it would be like that. But what happens with standing meditation, if you have enough of a background already in the internal arts or even in the external arts, you begin to open up these areas inside yourself which provide kind of quantum leaps, the ability to, it's like this for me. I would be reading certain things in the classics, the Tai Chi classics, right? And they all sounded good and it made sense and all that stuff, but how to do it? There it is in words, and here I am in my body. How do I get it across? And I found that by just doing the standing meditation every day. Now, in the old way, they stand for about an hour each time. And when you really want to get serious, you go longer than that. What I did for a period of 2 years was to stand 2 hours a day, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour at sunset or the evening, and do that. And this really seems to develop things in you might say a fantastical or mystical way. Because the whole process, it's like if you think of the 8 core skills, right? Like soften and connect, open and close, stretch and compress, twist and release. These type of things. The idea of soften and connect is the whole modus operandi of the standing meditation. The idea by relaxing enough, we are able to feel a joining. Now, the muscles are always going to be separate. They got the pectoralis and the latissimus and all these different things. But one begins to gain a sense of unity, feeling of unity, as if they are joined. And of course, the Chinese would say they're joined with the qi, with the life force energy. And so the goal of all of these practices, of the internal practices, is to unify the body to the state where we're like kind of one single-celled animal type of thing. And when this first happens inside the body in Zanzhuang, it's quite different because you're standing there relaxed in a posture, or your arm down in Wuji posture, or wherever your posture is taking you. But you're simply breathing and relaxing, and yet things are happening inside.
Yes.
Okay? The biggest thing that I can point out for most people is to get that sense of their center and their dantian. And I've been doing some reading here recently, an old book called Taoist Yoga, which is written by a man born in 1806, Charles Luke. It's out there, it's famous. But I hadn't read it in many years, and I began to reread it again, and I found that much of the things that they talk about as alchemy begin to happen spontaneously to the practicer of standing meditation if they just show up every day. And some days are harder than others, and some days you feel uncomfortable. But eventually you're able to get a certain mindset, you might say. And it's actually really releasing the mind.
Yes.
Kind of going into pure feeling, as I talk about in the book. And that's where things really begin to happen. Because when we're not using our conscious mind, elements of the subconscious mind begin to surface. and we're able to take advantage of those. So we really are training that. And so with enough training, what happens is the nerves and the nerve sheaths actually change, and so that we don't react in the same way as other people do. Now, of course, if one is in a survival situation, there's going to be adrenaline, there's going to be fear. But what happens is different. Most people, when that occurs, the energy rises into your throat and your chest. Everything, a lot of lactic acid come out, and you can move. With enough training, what happens is the chi sinks.
Yes.
And what happened if you feel very, very connected to the ground, yet spring-like, you can move in any direction instantly. The upper body feels like it has no weight.
Yes.
It's like it could move through a vacuum instantly. So you have the ability of a certain kind of speed that develops from this. And I remember when I was studying with the Wadong Masters, Grandmaster Lee's brother would do a break where they would have pieces of silk, and they'd have the bricks on the silk, and he would knife chop and break the bricks without breaking the silk.
Yes.
And I asked him one, how do you do that? He says, I create a vacuum. And then when in a vacuum, there's no resistance to the movement. So your speed can be a lot more than it physically appears.
Yes.
Okay, so this is one experience that I found very interesting. But all this occurs in the standing meditation as well.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, yeah. There's such wonderful things that you've mentioned there, and it's really wonderful to hear a lot of your background and how it's come into all the things that you're talking about. So I've and there's so many things that I think people might like to explore further. In particular, for me, it was so useful to be able to kinesthetically feel that first stage of softening and connecting into the body. And what would you say, and a lot of my understandings through that process have been about being able to feel what's going on in the fascia system. And for me, that's been a really big, just a physical kind of reference to how the body's unified, because the way I see the fascia system is it's that one thing that connects the whole body, kind of like the skin, but interweaving on the inside.